about it?
I, he says the hospital authority still in place. I said, I don't know.
I don't think so.
That had nothing to do with us. He said he heard the hospital authority was still in place and something or other. They
No,
were still running, but what were they doing if Piedmont's doing it?
no. Pete Muntz did.
I said, I don't know. I'll look, but we don't. We haven't appointed him because this board appointed somebody, right?
Pete Muntz did it.
He said Billy Fortune was still on it, and that's all.
They got a group. They get together, but
I mean,
that's about it. That's all they do is get together.
they're gonna have coffee or steaks or whatever.
Whatever they do. I never been invited.
Invited that group.
Never know. Oh,
What's the question? Oh, tomorrow. Are you?
going to the funeral? Yes.
I'm gonna try. Are we gonna do? Are you gonna end here? Or,
Yeah.
I'm assuming most employees are gonna wanna
Go.
without having a county manager voice.
I ain't gonna stop them from going.
Yeah. I know I'm gonna try to go. I know you're trying to go, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna present them.
Get us out of here.
I'm gonna present them the flag,
Are you?
county flag.
Oh, is that what the plan was asking? I don't have an extra one.
I got it.
ED or chamber or somebody has one.
I got it.
You got one? You got an extra one? Okay.
We'll try to anyway. I ain't talked to the family.
Tommy's in the funeral, right?
I think. Yeah. I think Jason. Jason
No,
Jones.
I mean Harwell.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jason's doing.
Eulogy.
Yeah, we have new neighbors. So we had dinner with them last night.
Yeah, dinner
What
with
church
him.
are good? We have new neighbors.
Yeah, I had dinner with him.
Yeah.
Really?
Wallers invited us over last night.
Really?
That new house in Pine. Talking about church, like, oh, we used to go to the Baptist church and we changed. Oh, the pastor's great. Yada, yada, yada. I'm like, where'd you go? Stewart. Baptist. I was like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jason. So they were bragging on him.
Where they go now?
They go to Stewart. They went to First Baptist. I don't know who it was. I forgot the name already. Donnie Cole. I guess he played baseball east side. I think his wife is tied in with Tavish or something. I don't know. That's all. Yes. Oh, you want me to come to you? Okay. See what I can do with you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Better than what I had to deal with. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We are excited to be working our way out from COVID. Just to bring you up to speed a little bit, we will once again in April be applying for an ARPA grant, but Walton County is going to administer that. But the benefit to Newton County will be we're going to upgrade the technology in all of our courtrooms. That's been a point of frustration with us, is the glitches, bugs in technology, from evidence presentation to Zoom hearings and things of that nature. So we anticipate that we will get enough money through the ARPA grant to bring make all the technology the same in all 4 courtrooms here, all 4 courtrooms in Walton County. So when the lawyers go back and forth between the 2 counties, judges go back and forth, it's the same system in place. And so that ARPA grant will aid us greatly in doing that. We continue to do well with our accountability courts. Great success. We just had a graduation, drug court graduation on Friday. We thank you for letting us use the boardroom for that purpose. Had 4 graduates, all of whom are doing well. We had 3 graduates, prior graduates, come back for the graduation ceremony, one of whom gave the keynote speech. And so he did an excellent job sharing his personal testimony about recovery. So we're excited. We appreciate the budget and the commissioner's cooperation in funding our constitutional mandate to maintain an independent judiciary. And we continue to strive to move cases through the system as quickly as possible to relieve crowding, to relieve the jail population, as well as to get citizens' cases heard in a timely manner. It's not perfect, but we strive for that. So our budget, I think, is in line with last year, if I understand correctly. I was just telling Brittany that we're going, our law clerks, our staff attorneys historically have all been paid the same across counties. There may need to be some adjustment in that, but I'll work with Amanda and Brittany to make sure that that's funded properly and get everybody paid the same. Next year, we may move toward scale pay, so that those judges who wish to retain law clerks for more than 2 years and have that as a career for them, they can move up the pay scale, county pay scale, and take advantage of that longevity and that experience. But I'm here for questions.
You have any questions? Commissioner Mason? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Judge Wynn,
Yes, sir.
for all the work that you do in our Superior Court. I have sat in our Superior Court a few different times. One when you were on as the judge for those courts, and I see the work that is being done, so I just wanted to say thank you for that. It looks like everything from what I can see is pretty much the same as 2023. The only difference that I noticed was in education and training. It was a $5,000 jump. So is that because we have more individuals that are going to be trained, or what causes it to go from 500 to 5,000? And just because I see consistently 2022 450, 2023 500, and then it jumped to 5,500.
Right, and that's because we have an opportunity for a judge to attend some national training, and which is great. It's sponsored by the National Judicial College, and so that's the reason for that one-time jump.
Excellent, and I'm a huge proponent of training.
Yes, sir.
This board will tell you.
Yes, sir.
I am at as much training as I possibly can get because I want to be the best that I can be in my role. So
That's right.
I'm a huge proponent.
Yes, sir. And that's, the state provides very good training, continuing education for judges, but it's good to get national training as well. We've learned that through the National Association of Drug Court Professionals. They sponsor a national conference every year. We don't go every year, but those are years where we do get a chance to go, using some funding from outside the budget. That's been very valuable.
Right.
So
that was the only question I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I think we tried to offset that by reducing some other line items as well.
Okay,
So I think it winds up being budget neutral.
okay.
Thank you, sir. I remember when you was the DA here. Yeah, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
only been 13 years since
Yeah.
that, so.
And now you're the chief judge. Thank you for all that you're doing, just especially for the extra programs, the accountability of courts and things like that. Thank you so much for that, for providing another opportunity for those that are having issues and struggling with so many different things.
That's right.
So thank you for your leadership.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Y'all take care.
Miss Brittany.
Up next, we will have our district attorney, Randy McGinley, and his information can be found on page 176 of the book.
Thank you. Hello, hello.
So I'm assuming y'all want me to start early then, right?
Yes, sir.
I figured that was the case. Provide, as I always do.
No, I just asked, did you come in behind Judge Wayne?
Mm-mm.
Oh, no. No, what Judge Zahn was between.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, so he was, I think Wayne was DA for about 10 years, I believe. I think Judge Wynn was DA for
Yeah.
almost exactly 10 years too.
Yep, he was.
I think Alan Cook was DA for like
And
10 years before that, so
Yeah,
maybe a bit of a pattern.
then I go back to Alan Cook days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He is retired. He went to go be a professor at UGA Law School.
Oh, okay.
And he's pretty much retired. I think he's maybe teaching one class a year, not even not one per semester, but he's living the retired life.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, he taught there's a prosecution clinic at UGA Law School that he started, and then we have probably 4 or 5, 6 of our ADAs graduated from UGA Law School and went through the clinic that Alan Cook taught.
Okay.
Because they come out of school knowing a lot more. As far as not just the theoretical law school stuff, but actually somewhat know how to do the job more than other people when they come out of law school.
So he live in Athens?
Do what?
He lives in Athens?
No, I think he's up like in the mountains. They moved to Tennessee. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he may drive back just one semester to teach a class like once a night during the week or something like that.
Okay.
But otherwise is enjoying not working.
Thank you for being here today, sir.
Thank y'all. I'm gonna go through a couple things that I provided you. It's one page. Some of this stuff I'm not gonna talk about because I think it's just showing y'all just sort of how the office is divided up in number of employees and the different divisions within the office. But I do want to just kind of highlight some things, including some of the things we've done to, when I say save the county money, that also could be by providing and getting funding elsewhere. I know y'all are aware of because you approved it, was the joint funding between Newton, Walton, Covington, and Monroe for the gang and gun violence, and that's been going great. Alex Stone, who's the ADA assigned to that, has been working hard. We've been meeting with law enforcement all the time, meeting with schools. We met with Dr. Buff 2 weeks ago, talk about some of the things going on at Newton County High School and how we can try to address some of the things early on. As I told you, I think part of it is there's going to be a large portion of that job, obviously, that is prosecuting gang members, but some of it is also trying to get people to not join gangs in the first place. And along with that, y'all also approved, when the sheriff requested $100,000, that was a reimbursable grant for the gang tracking software. That is up and running now. Now, as far as how much data is in there, that's still a work in progress because that's from scratch. But that is up and running to where my office, all the local law enforcement agencies in Walton and Newton have access to that, which is great.
So let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
So is there a educational piece to that where you go to the classrooms and
Yes.
educate the students?
And that's what we talked with Dr. Buff about, is starting to go, because Newton has, I think she said they have the law sort of class that some of the other high schools don't. We're going to meet with Eastside coming up soon too, and also restart. When I was in ADA in Newton, it was Judge Johnson's youngest son. I taught mock trial.
Okay.
And so that goes back 2013 maybe. And so we've talked to Eastside and Newton. Now, Covey didn't respond. I'm going to work on that. But Eastside and Newton are going to restart the mock trial program, which again gets us in there in front of kids and those sort of things. So yes, and because I think it's not just getting in front of the students, it's also getting in front of the parents.
Yeah.
Is a big thing too that we're running into. That these parents, that what the principals and some of the SROs have told us is they see, like, so all of a sudden their son gets in trouble, and it's like, well, it's all this gang stuff. Well, I didn't know this was all gang stuff, and it sort of educate them on what to be looking out for as well. So yes, that's part of it as well for sure. I also have one of our investigators is actually in Walton County, but he does this for Newton and Walton. Cellbrite is a program to download phones, and so we pay for that program up in Walton County, but he works and dumps phones in both counties. And he's joining up with a Secret Service task force that will provide a lot of additional software and training for him, which then the counties don't have to pay for and the cities don't have to pay for. And also I know here in Newton we have the investigative assistant position, which is the salaries reimbursed from the state ARPA funds that we go through the AOC, Administrative Office of the Courts. And so that's one of the things I put in the budget proposal was to, I guess as a contingency, to pay his salary out of county funds after December 31st of this year, because the grant goes, it's a calendar year. So we have grant funding through December 31st for his position, and I can apply for one more year, which I'm going to apply. I just think it would be good to have that contingency in case the state does not approve it. I'm hopeful they will. They reapproved it this year. So there's that. I included what I sent y'all, and y'all know I send y'all some things here and there. And this, I've not updated it. I will try to work on that as some of these other counties approve their budgets, just to show where Newton falls per citizen costs for prosecution, and that we're much lower than, a lot of surrounding counties. We're pretty close to Rockdale, but then you got to think too, Rockdale doesn't have the population we have. It also doesn't have the area we have. It is pretty small. And there's other counties that are similar to size than us and spend a ton more. Like Douglas County does have more people. They spend $35 per person. We were spending, as of last year's budget, under $20 per person for prosecution, which is a chunk of money. I mean, we do a lot with what we're getting paid. Dougherty County, which has less people than Newton, spends significantly more. Now, Dougherty's a weird case because Dougherty actually has probably 25 murders a year. Albany's a bit of a mess at times. But I included that there. And obviously things like retention, we've had very little turnover here, but it is still a concern for me. If you read some of the news and look up district attorney's offices, they've been in the news a lot lately and not for good things. The Athens office has 17 ADA slots, prosecutor slots. They're down to 4 ADAs right now.
Wow.
Other counties have gone that same route too. Savannah has half the prosecutors they're supposed to have. And I'm not here to say all of that is because of pay, but pay still matters. I'll give you an example. Is the Coweta circuit, which is Coweta, Carroll, Troop, and I like to use Troop to compare to us because Troop also went through what we are going to go through soon. Troop had the Kia plant come, 4 or 5 years ago, and we may be having something very similar to that, and just at the growth they've had. But that DA over there hired a guy fresh out of law school. So you graduate in May, you take the bar in July, and you get your bar results in October. He hired him. He started in October. Fresh out of law school. In January, the Fulton County Solicitor's Office hires him away and pays him $98,000 to prosecute nothing but misdemeanors, and he's 3 months out of getting his bar results and getting paid $98,000. Wow. Our ADAs here, I believe, started around 57 and some change, 58, I think, or so. Again, as I've said in emails to y'all, I don't want us to be Fulton in the cab, but when it's a 60% difference, that's a scary thing. But we've done well, and I appreciate everything you guys have done for us as growing the office over the last few years. A couple of things I want to highlight that we are, I kind of go through some of the retention and hiring things, which I don't necessarily want to go through too much with you guys. I want to more focus on caseload growth, obviously. The January of this year, AOC is something I said earlier too, is the Administrative Office of the Courts. They have a Judicial Council on Superior Court Workload Assessment every year or so. Our circuit is the 10th highest for most defendants out of the state. But we are 4th for projected growth for the next 5 years. I think they're saying we're going to grow at 8%, our circuit, that means Newton and Walton together, will grow at 8% for the next 5 years. I think Forsyth County is still #1, which is crazy to me because it's grown a ton already. Henry was up there, and I forget what the third one was, and we were fourth. So I just say that it's just something to keep in mind down the road in the future, as far as how our office is growing. Y'all know there's more and more subdivisions popping up left and right, new apartments, and growth is good, but obviously there is some things that come with that. So some of the things we are asking for, one of the things that we put in the budget was some funding for we got to spend some money and buy a very high-end lab or computer with high-end storage. We are running into, when you download forensically, we call it dump. That's not really the most maybe appropriate term, but a phone dump is what we call it.
Yeah.
Some people's phones have 200 gigs of data on it. Some people's computers have terabytes of that. We get a report that is downloaded for that, and we try to open it up on our computer, and it crashes the computer because it's just too much data. And so we've talked to IT about that, because I got the idea from the GBI and their forensic computer lab, and they buy a $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 laptop that is, essentially it's a gaming laptop. Apparently gaming laptops are the way to go for high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
I don't do that, I don't know, but my kids aren't that old, but that is apparently the way to go, because they have everything you need, and then they buy some separate external storage that can hold a lot of these things. So that's a very important thing. Also ask for funding for us to go to evidence.com for file storage and data sharing. And it's a chunk of money. It'd be about $32,000 a year. What we're running to now is still the issue of every year IT has to come in and give us more storage on the server for more and more data and space. This would be all cloud-based. It also would speed things up, because what we would do is essentially when a file comes in our office, we would create a file on evidence.com, which is the same thing that's Axon, which is what the sheriff's office uses for body cams, which will be really easy with the sheriff's office. They can essentially, we create a case file with a case file link and send that to the sheriff's office, and they can just transfer all the body cams for that specific case from their case file to our case file. And same thing from investigations. They can put everything in that one specific case file on the cloud, and we can share all that with the defense like that. It also transcribes any audio or video for us. It does all sorts of things. That is great, and it is also for just file storage. As I told you all the previous years, we have to keep felony files for 25 years. This is something that will allow us to do that on the cloud and save us money in the long run. We're having to, right now, save stuff on the server. I mean, some files are 500, 600 gigabytes of data. And so this will save us a lot of money in the long run instead of us continuing to have to pay for more and more and more server storage over the time. One of the things I put in there was this idea of possibly doing a circuit-wide pay scale. I had discussion in my Walton budget presentation about how we're not necessarily there yet, because logistically that causes a lot of issues. If one county does a cost of living increase, the other county doesn't, how do we go about doing that? But what I talk with in Walton, I think it's something, I think we're doing a pay study here, right?
Yep.
Is to address that in that way, because there's still some discrepancies between each county. I'd like to get those closer. I understand there's gonna be times when one county is maybe paying more than the other. I just want them to be closer at times. When they're drastically different, that's a hard thing for me in my offices and say, well, if you wouldn't go work in Newton, you'd get paid $10,000 more. And so I want to make sure we're pretty close between the two counties on that. I'm also asking to reclassify 2 positions. It's really as one move, but it would need to be 2, according to HR last year. Our victim services, we have 6 victim advocates. We have a victim services director and a number 2 person. Well, she's still classified the same as all the other individuals in victim services. But the problem is to reclassify her. If you just reclassified her up 1 grade, she'd be the same grade as the victim services director, which HR said, well, then you have to reclassify the director up 1 grade too. So you kind of just move each of those up 1. And also asking for a new investigator position as well. Numbers here as far as caseload wise. I'm going to get to that just to explain some of that to you guys.
Randy, why don't you start about it? You want to give a packet for the commissioners?
Just that are not here? Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you. I think one thing you'll appreciate seeing if you look at the caseload numbers I have in here is that we've done a great job closing more cases than we actually opened in over the last couple of years, which is a good thing for the jail. And we work very well with the jail. I mean, when they call and say, hey, so-and-so is in here, has medical problems, He's costing a ton of money. What can y'all do? Now, obviously, that's a case-by-case thing. We had somebody who was going to cost a lot of money for some surgery, some oral teeth surgery, and he was charged with like 7 counts of child molestation and rape. And I was like, well, we could rush the case to trial. We're not going to agree to a bond on something like that.
Yeah.
There's some, if it's low-level things, we'll get him out of jail and agree to a bond quickly. I mean, I've had some where I've called a judge in the middle of the weekend and say, hey, judge, this person just got arrested. They got some serious medical problems. Can we get them out of the jail? And we get it done, which, having experienced ADDAs has helped that a lot too, because the jail knows they can call not just me, they can call anybody in the office and they can work on that. But I think what is important to see as far as some of the caseload numbers is, if you break it down, right now, with last year's numbers, 2022 numbers, each ADA on average handle about 265 cases a year. Now obviously some are handling a lot more than others. Obviously, like my chief assistant doesn't have as big of a caseload, but she has nothing but serious cases and manages and trains and does all that. Investigators, if you take away TPOs, which I know y'all know we handle, our investigators handle about 346 cases a year. And then victim advocates, I took out drug cases because obviously the victim advocates don't really handle drug cases. Nothing for them to be involved in. There's no necessarily individual victim. And probation cases, each victim advocate at some point touches about 395 or handles 395 cases per year, which is a lot. And that's one of the reasons why with investigators, that's why I believe we need another investigator. And that will also allow me to have somebody focus more on some of the gang and gun crime as well, which is what I want to do. The other things in the budget to touch on, this year's budget, as of today, we're at 73.8% overall of the budget, which is, I think, right about where we're supposed to be. Now, a lot of that is, a lot of the personnel costs, the insurance, and some of the other costs that come along with that is actually much higher than 75%. Can't do anything about it. I think I had 2 or 3 people have kids this year, and, that increases the insurance cost by a lot. Now, as far as the individual line items that are non-personnel, the only line items we're above 75% on right now are education and training, which we're like 120%. Postage, which is just because we have, and I heard a lot of what Judge Wynn said, and one of the things I'd say is we have 4 of our 5 judges have 2.5 years or less experience on the bench. 2 of them are pretty, one's brand new, and they're having a lot more court dates, and I want to focus on my department, but I will bring up one of the issues we're running into is, I know we've discussed this, is I've got 1 vacancy for all my 25 ADA slots in the circuit. The PD's office has 14 or 15 slots and only has 7 assistant public defenders. And that is causing an issue of cases not moving as quickly as they can. We have court dates that have 70 people on the calendar and not much gets handled, and then we have the next court date 2 weeks later has 95 people on the calendar. Up in Walton, I had a 98-person criminal calendar for 1 day. I mean, that's insane. And so obviously, when I say that with postage, my office sends out all the court notices and subpoenas and everything, and so that just has gone up. Uniforms, just because we have more people, and then obviously gas is above 75%, but not by much. And gas, y'all know, it's a guess every year of what we're budgeting. With the FY24 budget, I think y'all see is that a couple of reductions, maintenance agreements and rental of equipment went down. Part of that is just plainly copiers. I know y'all, I think we paid for a new big copier the last couple of years. So we've done a good job planning that, and dues and fees have gone down as well. I want to focus on some of the things that have gone up. Because obviously if you look at that overall, where's that one sheet that has the 2022, that one. Yeah, y'all got it up there. If you take away all of the personnel costs, so basically everything, professional and contractor services down, the requested budget is increased only $10,000. Obviously personnel, which, and I know this come up I think with other commissioners in previous years. I mean my office is always going to be heavy on personnel, and it's going to be pretty high on the personnel things because I've got a bunch of people that went to law school, and their salaries are not going to be that low. And so that's a huge chunk of it, and obviously insurance went up, and then also there's 0 budgeted currently for reimbursement of salaries. I'm assuming that will. Yeah, which is another like $100,000 or so difference there. And Brittany and I discussed that recently. I know there was during COVID, some of the reimbursement of salaries from some of the court fines and funding went down because we just didn't have court for almost a year. But we're kicking that back up, and her and I have had discussions about getting that back up to higher rates as well. But, you know, those are the main things. Like I said, some of the other things that have gone up are not anything drastic. Like I said, I think take away personnel, it's literally like a $10,000 difference. Goes from $186,703 to $196,500. But I think obviously we're going to continue to grow. The county's going to continue to grow, but we're not asking for anything too drastic this year. I think vehicle-wise, we're fine. I know we had a SPOST and the gang gun vehicle that was funded between the 4 entities and a SPOST vehicle or something like that we got. So we're good on that end. But there's other things that I touched on are very important things. I'd love to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? You got a question? Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Randy, once again, for presenting this to us and for the work that you do. I know it can be challenging, it can be tough, but just through my own observation, I mean, it seems like you guys are doing an excellent job over in the district attorney's office, and so I want to say thank you for that work. I know we noticed, or we were told that everybody was going to have kind of an increase when it comes to personnel. So I was looking at your regular employees line items. It's 185,010 difference between 2023 and 2024. Is that for the investigator role?
Which one is that?
The regular employee, the very first one.
Right.
So from 2023 to 2024, it's a
Right.
$185,000 difference.
And
I know you mentioned you needed another investigator.
Right. I know one is the investigator. I know there was also a request for some additional funding for my state paid folks. Also often get county supplements. I also asked for some additional supplement money as well. I think covers that. And I don't know if that included the half year for the investigative assistant or not.
I think a majority of this is gonna be that gang and gun violence.
Right.
Personnel, and the way that it works is they're an employee of Newton County, and then the other jurisdictions pay us back. So that'll be another number that's factored in the reimbursement of salary. So the reimbursement of salary is a negative number, so they'll wash each other out.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. So I think it's for this because I think the initial request was $30,000 per entity, and I think that it goes down because don't need another vehicle. And so I think it was about $25,000 per entity that would cover the cost of the employee and all the personnel costs, some training equipment and gas over the year. But I think that was $25,000 that would come from Newton, and the other $75,000 would be reimbursed from Covington, Monroe, and Walton. And obviously, I've only been to Walton for their budget presentation. I don't see any issue with that. Covington, I don't see any issue whatsoever. Monroe is the odd one because their fiscal year is different than the other three. So that's just going to be some fun on the financial side, just as timing wise.
Okay. And then one last question.
Can I slip a question in while
You
you're talking
should.
about personnel right
You
quick?
should, Mike.
And this is maybe a silly question, but
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna ask it anyway. How do you guys do all what you do without no overtime? Because I only see $424 with no.
Well, one, the attorneys are all exempt, and
But you guys, so I know there's a lot of times that you go to the crime scene as well,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Your team, you go to.
yes, sir.
So I'm just trying to figure it out. How
With the investigators, we keep track of comp time.
Oh, okay, okay.
And
I
so
got you.
they don't get overtime, but they get comp time. And I learned a lesson, not the hard way, but you talk to other people who do this job,
Yeah.
and you learn lessons from them. Okmulgee Circuit, which is Morgan, Baldwin, a bunch of other counties, the new DA there that took office around the same time I did, they didn't have a policy about how many comp hours you could rack up. And he had an investigator that when he took office retired with 2,000 hours of comp time.
Wow.
So we don't really let people get above a certain amount before they got to start taking it.
Okay,
So we don't want that to happen. And then obviously, like I said, the attorneys that go to the crime scene, we're exempt. We don't get any of that. That's just part of the job.
Okay.
I try personally going to a lot of them if they're murders.
Yeah.
Now with the attorneys, because they're not, they're all exempt. If someone's out until 3, 4 in the morning, I just tell them don't come in until later.
Okay.
It's
Right.
with the attorneys, we don't have to keep track of hours, but if I did,
Yeah,
and you broke down what they got paid by hour, it'd be a lot less than what.
yeah.
Yeah.
The number just jumps out at you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
right. And that's why my personnel cost is always going to be up there. I
I
mean,
got you.
on my state side, I think we're 97% salaries
Yeah.
on the state side of our budget.
Okay, okay.
I
Yeah,
think you may
my
have
bad,
had
go
one
ahead.
more.
I don't know, you good, that was a good question.
Yeah.
And I figured they probably, I know the attorneys probably were exempt, I knew that, but I didn't realize you
Yeah.
guys did comp time, so that's good.
Mhm.
This may be a silly question, so please forgive me. I know my parents used to always tell me no question is a silly question.
No, yeah.
But what do you, I'm seeing your uniform budget.
Mhm.
What uniforms
So-
do you guys have?
Right, so a lot of us have some like similar shirt to what
Okay.
y'all are wearing.
Okay.
I want to provide everybody with that ability to have that because, in for the most part, say like attorneys got to wear suits every day but Friday,
Right.
unless you got court on Friday, and then I have a duty AD every day that even if they have something, they got to have a suit ready to go in their office to put on to go to court.
Right.
And so I'll let them wear jeans. They got to give $1 to the domestic violence shelters, that sort of thing. Y'all know how it is. You can give someone a day off or jeans, and they choose jeans over a day off. People are weird about that.
Yes,
I
would too.
And then also investigators, because they're sometimes going out on scenes and things like that, we've given them a little bit higher budget than every other person. They may have sort of like BDUs. They have jackets that say DA's office on it, that it's clear when we walk out of the scene. It's bad. Law enforcement, they got, y'all have seen, there's deputies and officers that look like they're 12 years old now. And so us having that, it's not the same. We don't necessarily know every single officer on the road. And so us having all that official looking stuff looks good. Or if we're having to travel for things like that too. So that's what the uniform stuff is for.
That makes sense.
Essentially just giving each employee like $100 and then investigators $200, I think is what we may have done, or 150 and 200. Yeah, 100 and 200. Yeah, 200 for the investigators, 100 for everybody else.
That makes sense. I just didn't know. I was like, I thought they wore suits
Yeah, no,
every day.
no.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that you do get like
Yes.
county gear,
Mhm.
jackets, things like that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right, some of that is with ADAs, it's nice to have something official, because we're also so the deputies and law enforcement, we're also exempt from all the concealed carry laws as well. Our ADAs can carry anywhere and everywhere if they I don't let them carry in the courthouse, that's,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not gonna, but, the investigators obviously do, so.
Right.
And they're all our investigators are also deputized by the sheriff as well,
Right.
so.
And so when they go on the crime scene, they need to be, well, you can identify them.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That was my question. Thank you.
Commissioner Town, how you doing? I'm good.
You have anything? You have any questions? Okay. Sir, we greatly appreciate everything.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Get y'all out of here, well, I guess you got a break before the next one, I think.
Thank you what you're doing for
Yeah, thank
domestic
y'all very much.
violence as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. You too,
Yes, sir.
it was a good time, yeah.
Have
Thank
a
y'all.
good time. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Yep,
good one.
thank y'all.
How y'all?
Doing well. How you doing?
Too pretty to be in here.
I just told them I don't remember you ever coming and asking for a nickel.
Not very much. I don't ask for a whole lot.
Welcome today.
Thank you, buddy. As y'all see, there's very, very little increase in the coroner's budget ever. The only two things that we did increase is just like everything else we're going through is just the cost of merchandise. I mean, our goods to work, we have to buy body bags.
Yep.
Nothing much we can do about that. And unfortunately, the need for them's rising. As the cost rises, the need rises. So we've increased that just a little bit. Contract labor, I think we did that just a touch. It always works out real well for us on contract labor, the way we do that. If they work, they get paid. State law requires deputy coroner to receive a contracted fee for his call volume. We put that in contract labor. Right now, we're running without any clerical assistance, just running with myself and one deputy coroner. It'd be nice down the road to increase that, but it doesn't change anything. It's built into the contract labor, so it doesn't change our budget whatsoever. But I think that's really about it.
So it's only two of you guys?
And myself and one deputy. Yep. Yeah. We've been able to maintain pretty good, keeping everything out in front of us.
Any questions, guys?
I don't, that's all I see, everything's straightforward.
Commissioner Cowell, any questions?
It is.
It is.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, we don't do a whole lot with it.
How
So,
did he decrease his regular employee costs?
I think with the new radio system and all coming in, that's already built in for our vehicles, I think.
Okay.
So we're ready to go with that. That wasn't any increase on our stuff, so.
Would it be bad if I asked them how you transport? So, I don't see anything for, transportation or transporting. Is there
We
any-
do that through contract labor.
Okay.
The county, you know, we've got a van, we've got an expedition. We've got 2 stretchers that we use, and we use contract labor. Actually, a deputy sheriff at Sheriff's Department does it, and then my deputy does it some, I do it some myself. And if we do it, we don't get the contracted transport fee, we just do it. But if my deputy sheriff that does our transports, he makes $100 if he takes a body to the crime lab, and he makes $50 if he stays local.
Okay.
So there's not anything built in for transport, it's under contract labor,
Thank you, sir.
all right?
We greatly appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah,
for doing
man,
a
yeah.
great job.
No problem. Y'all have a good afternoon. We could have done this like on telephone or something. See,
Yeah.
you know, I tell people all the time, you want to see the coroner as often as you can, that way you know you're okay.
You're right about that. Thank you for
If I can
representing the
see you
county.
back, you're doing good. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So,
thanks for coming early. But I will tell you today it's all been elected officials and constitutional officers. You can second guess for
We're gonna go ahead and get started, with our Public Defender's Office. Wanna go ahead?
Up next, we have Anthony Cardner with our Public Defender's Office, and his information starts on page 193 of the book.
How you doing? Good.
Hello,
Hello, everyone.
how you doing?
How are we doing?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely.
I think Commissioner Mason stepped out for a few seconds, but he'll be back in a moment.
All right.
But you definitely go ahead and begin if you would like.
Well, I think this is close to my 20th budget presentation before the board. So I don't have any particular changes this year to my budget. We are almost a completely personnel-based budget outside of pens, paper, copiers. There's nothing in particular that we need this year that's going to be different. So budget-wise, as far as things to worry about, nickels and dimes or whatever, there's not a lot to worry about for us. On the other hand, my office is seriously struggling. And, I wanted to make sure everybody knows what the position that we're in. Fulton County, DeKalb County opened up 300 positions, making $100,000 a year right out of law school. My assistants make around, $100,000 a year coming out of law school. Yeah, my office, which I think is very, I appreciate what the county's done, but my office, we start at 63. It's made it very difficult to compete with those offices. As they continue hiring their 300 people, other counties are losing senior level people, and Newton County has been in a better position than Walton. In Walton County, I am down 6 attorney positions. There are 2 of us who are handling court on a day-to-day basis, and it has been very, very difficult, and I'll say, we are barely keeping our head above water. What we can do about that, there are lots of things. I spoke with Mr. Sims earlier. He's been very flexible to help me deal with some certain things. I'm working on recruiting. Obviously, I am working on making sure that we are competitive to some extent with regard to money. And in Walton County, we are actually contracting with some private attorneys, not for conflict cases, but for actual public defender cases to try to help kind of take the load off of us. So I'm working on it as diligently as I can, but we still are in the middle of a bit of a crisis. One thing that I'm asking this year is I'm asking to liquidate one of my positions. I'm turning, that is my juvenile court position. For the last year and a half, my juvenile court attorney has been covering Newton and Walton. He was a Newton salaried employee, but he was covering Newton and Walton, and I was using a state employee here to kind of cover for that. It didn't make a whole lot of sense the way it was working, so I made that person a state employee within the last few months. And so he is being paid by the state, and he's getting a supplement from Newton and a supplement from Walton, and he's handling both counties. It actually works out great because he is a lifelong juvenile attorney. He loves what he's doing, and those are the kind of things that I'm going to need from the board as we're trying to fix these things. I was given approval to do this where I liquidated his position. I'm going to now have his funds that I can use to help keep other employees and do some other things. It's not optimal. I know the board wants oversight over our budget, but after 20 years, I think people understand that I'm doing the best that I can with what I have, and that I'm not going to use it indiscriminately, and that I'm going to report back to the board on all the things that I do. So with that in mind, I am asking that my juvenile position be liquidated, and that I have the discretion to use that money. It's easy for all of us to say, yeah, that's great. Everybody in finance, of course, all the accountants, their heads explode when you say that. What do you mean? What are we going to use it for? What are we going to do? And those are kind of the things that we have to deal with as we're making those decisions, because I know the accountants want a plus and minus that makes sense, but I also need that discretion. The only other thing that I have mentioned in my requests is that I receive a supplement that was started in, I believe, 2000, when John Strauss was the Circuit Public Defender. It was kind of meant to allow him to keep a certain salary. He was he was in both Newton and Walton. That supplement is $3,000. I know that is not the supplement that the district attorney gets, and I've been here 4 or 5 times longer than the current elected district attorney. I know that other circuit public defenders in local areas, and I've given some examples in my request, that their supplements are significantly more. At this point, I deserve it. I'm working very, very hard, very diligently. I don't know, people who know me can tell how tired I am and how dead my voice is, but I am working really hard, and I think that it would be fair to try to equalize the supplements between the district attorney and myself to some extent, maybe not 100%, but in some meaningful fashion. Other than that, I can answer any questions.
Mr. Cowell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anthony, did you modify your salaries in this budget here?
We have.
You have?
I mean, we have.
Tell me did you raise your employee salaries?
No. There are no particular raises for the employee salaries on this.
But you probably need to, right?
Well, not reflected on this is the juvenile attorney not being part of this. So that salary of $71,000 plus benefits or whatever it was is actually, we are using those as supplements right now for the people that needed it. So in other words, instead of going before the board every year trying to say, okay, this person needs more money, honestly, I can tell you that if I ask for more money for Attorney A right now, there is a 50% chance that Attorney A is not going to be here in July.
So are you eliminating that position?
I am asking to temporarily liquidate it for purposes of using the money for other purposes.
How do we keep and retain public defenders?
If I knew the answer to that, we wouldn't be in the same position we are. It's not just money, though. It has to do with what you can offer. And in my office, we can offer good training. There are, between myself and several of my senior attorneys, we are very good at making young lawyers very good lawyers. And if they will stay with us for 2 years, they are marketable, they are good lawyers, especially because we have good judges, we have good DAs. That's one of our selling points. But I found in 25-year-olds these days that possibly loyalty, work ethic, experience, things of that nature are a little bit less important than a couple of dollars. And that's why we are having trouble getting people from Fulton, getting people from DeKalb, getting people from Henry. I had a great attorney. She was from California. She was in a San Diego public defender's office. And she came here and she took a lower salary. And she wanted to stay. But in Henry County, they offered her $10,000 more a year to work 3 days a week and the other 2 from home. That's just something I can't compete with, you know? So John Middleton, you remember John, he and I started working on this 15 years ago, trying to figure out a way to to give us the discretion that we don't have to go to the board every time we want to give somebody a raise, because it gets political. It gets, well, if she's getting a raise, why isn't he getting a raise? But it gives Randy McGinley and I an opportunity to try to retain attorneys when they say, hey, look, I'm going to tell you, I just interviewed in Rockdale and they're offering me $5,000. Can you at least match it? And I've done that several times over the last 10 years where I was able to match it. I kept my senior person in Walton recently the very same way by having a little bit of money, discretionary money. Usually it's $10,000 to $15,000 on our line item, but I'm asking that Mr. Yoon's salary, the juvenile attorney's salary, be used for that purpose as well. And again, that's a leap of faith on the board's part to say Anthony's not just going to waste this. He's not going to give $10,000 to his favorite person, you know, and neglect others. You've got to believe that if I say I need to use this $10,000 for this, that it's going to be helpful for my office.
Well, I guess my question then would be, do you need a pool of money to have that available for you?
I do.
Okay. How much does that need to be? Let's say we started at 50,000. You already cut 70,000.
Yes, sir.
And you cut, and let's say you put another 50 over there. Is it possible with you do an evaluation and a discussion with your, the finance director, if everything, and I guess HR director, I guess, if everything looks fine, then you as head of the public defender office can issue a discretionary raise. Is that possible to put that in there without cost? You got some of that.
We do that. I have between $5,000 and $15,000, depending on what the board gives me every year, $5,000 and $15,000 in a
That ain't
pot.
nothing.
It's not, but it's worked. I mean, it's
No,
better
I
than
know,
nothing.
but that ain't nothing. Okay. And here's my point. Well, despite the fact that I have a law enforcement background, I've seen cops do the wrong thing many, many times. I'd probably make a great public defender.
Hey, we're hiring.
I'm getting too old. But the cops do the bad thing sometimes. Sometimes they do the right thing. I'd like to see you be able to retain people however you can. And I think you're going to need a little more money than that. So I think it's reasonable to ask you to go back and request an amount with Brittany, work with Brittany, and just do a revised revision of this, so that we know that you got something in there to take care of that.
Yes, sir.
The worst thing that can happen is a person not get a good defense. I mean, I think there are people who are convicted wrongly. I think some people plead out, and they probably shouldn't.
Right. Well, and even just as important to the county too is our ability to clear out the jail. People who are waiting to get their case resolved we, the taxpayers, are paying $50 a day at a minimum
Right.
to house those people. As soon as they're sentenced or released, then you're either zero or it's on the state's dime. So, I mean, you take one person who it takes 2 weeks longer, you're talking $1,500 out of our taxpayers' money every time that we can't, we have to continue a case because we're not ready. And Walton is in a really bad position. Newton is hanging in there right now. So yes, that money would help to make sure that I can retain people. It just gives me the discretion to do it without having to go before the board every time and say, you know, I'm in a pickle, this person might leave, or, you know, those kind of things. And like, in liquidating that juvenile position, that gave me about $70,000. I was able to do his supplement and 4 other supplements within the office, all for $30,000. So I've still got over half of his salary left to help do these things, but I helped 5 people in the office.
Right, but you're not increasing your hiring salary either.
Correct. And to do that, every question that you ask is very complicated, probably more complicated than you might know, because if you increase my salary, you're gonna have to increase Randy's salary.
I understand.
And then every other attorney, you know, who works in the county.
I know, it all has a ripple effect.
It does. And say, I do have somebody brand new out of law school who says, I'll come work for you for $80,000. If I've got somebody in my office who's been here for 5 years that's making $72,000, I can't do that without raising that person's salary. So the extra money would give me the ability to not only, you know, raise the person who's been loyal and staying here, but also pick up new attorneys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so these are all things that
Well, you're gonna have to be competitive with Fulton and DeKalb and other counties like that, because it's difficult to recruit the type person that you gotta recruit, because it's a specialized training. And they're gonna follow the money.
Right.
Unfortunately, they do.
It takes a lot for me to terminate an attorney, and I had to do that 2 years ago with somebody. I just could not allow that person to stay in the office. And he or she was very quick to let me know that she was making more money than I am right now in the Fulton County Public Defender's Office. So,
That's just real nice.
yeah.
But anyway, my personal opinion is, I don't know how the other board members feel, but I think you ought to get with Brittany, y'all come up with a number that you're more comfortable with,
Yes, sir.
and don't feel like you're in front of the board begging and pleading for money, because what you're doing is critical. And hope I don't need a public defender one day, but I might.
If you do, we'll be waiting. We'll leave a light on.
But hope nobody needs a public defender one day, but y'all might.
We do handle,
I
of
know
course,
I know some stuff that concerns me.
we do handle 91, 92% of the criminal cases. So, yeah,
But
we are okay here, we're hanging on.
That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how the other board members feel.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
That's all I got.
That's all you got?
Yeah, I better not say no more. I may have got some of y'all in trouble.
No, we listen and recording too, yeah. Oh, me.
All right.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Anthony. We
Mr.
greatly
Chairman, it's
appreciate
nice to see
it.
you again.
It's good to see you as well, sir.
Jackie.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I will. I will. Thank you.
You think you can find him some money for that? Okay.
Because what he's done is he's marked old position, he's frozen. So we're using Mark's position.
Okay, you figure it out.
He needs that position.
Yeah.
Not worried about me, I'm worried about your doing public.
Good afternoon.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Well, thank you. How are
Thank-
y'all?
I'm doing great. Thank y'all for being here.
Alrighty. What you got?
Excited, we're excited to hear from you guys.
Well, I'm Marty Kennard. This is Veronica Hardy,
Veronica Hardy, I am.
and we are from the assessor's office. We have both been there now 26 years.
Wow.
So you got, we both been there 26 years. Yes.
I guess
So-
we're gonna stay at this point.
Yeah, y'all kind of stuck with us. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still evolving into our new roles and new positions over in the assessor's office, and we're trying to implement changes, trying to digitize the way we're doing things now versus taking clipboards and paper to the field. So one of the big changes you're gonna see in our budget this year is a program called Mobile Assessor. It utilizes iPads. It also has the geographic tracking, so we can keep up with our appraisers and where they're at and make sure they're doing the job that they need to be doing effectively. It also implements the camera so they can go ahead and take photos versus having to carry a separate camera to the field. So, you know, we're excited about that program. That was one thing that we're looking forward to. We can always use new vehicles, you know, for them to go to the field. So you'll see that as well.
And we are grateful. We did manage to
Yes.
get some, and
Mm-hmm.
we needed it big
Yes,
time.
absolutely.
But y'all
Yep.
see it just like we do, how things are. And this mobile assessor would help, especially if we're in the office doing so much stuff, we can't always keep up, but it can help us keep up and keep, you know, things more at a better, accurate level of where
Okay.
they need to be.
Efficiency.
Yes.
Another thing you'll see in there is the software for the imagery. That's the aerial photography. They also offer a new product now called oblique imagery. This is, instead of seeing just the rooftops, you can actually angle in and see the sides of the buildings. So you can see, did they close that porch on the backside? It can also be used for the safety as well, for how many entry points are on this building.
And
So-
if there's fencing and things like that where the, you know, appraiser cannot get onto the property, it allows us to be able to pick up some stuff, because there's sometimes, even if we leave notes or whatever to say we're gonna come out, who's to say, you know, they've made 3 or 4 trips and that fence is still not,
Accessible.
yeah, we still can't get in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Other big change you'll see in there is under professional and contracted services, and that's where we hired a contractor this past year with Ms. Sue Morris, who retired from the office for personal property. So that's the big change, why you see it in there from last year to this year. But other than that, it's just your standard increases just along with life, everything else.
Thank you. Commissioner, do you have any questions? Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please forgive my delay, but thank you all for the presentation and for what you do in our tax assessor's office. And you may have mentioned this and I may have missed it, but there was a increase in maintenance agreements from 19,950 to 75,595. Can you explain what that large increase was?
That is our, majority of that is involved in our aerial Q Public
Okay.
website that's out there. We have also implemented online appeals as well as online homesteads, as well as online address changes. So we're trying to be more efficient and offer, you know, more accessories to our website so that people don't have to actually come in all the time, making it more easier for them, as well as effective for us too, coming in digitized.
Right. So there's more software-based
Yes.
type of funding?
Yes, that is exactly it.
Okay. And I think that was it.
And yes,
Now-
also has that mobile assessor in there as well that has a maintenance agreement with it.
Okay. You all mentioned the vehicles. With the 87,731, how many vehicles were you all wanting to try to get with that?
We were hoping to get 2 new trucks
Okay.
or an SUV for school purposes.
So 2 trucks or 1 SUV?
And we hope to replace 2 of our old 98s with that.
All right.
We have 98 F-150s.
That's
They're-
still crank.
They're biofuel. They're
Just
they're
still crank.
biofuels. They're on that natural gas. So,
Okay,
and we don't even utilize that anymore.
okay.
Let me jump in for a quick second.
That was all I had, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna just ask a question off of that one. Brittany, do they get any vehicles out of SPOS?
Great question. That's actually one thing I wanted to discuss, hearing them talking about. So with our bond, the SPOS bond, we're gonna have around 2.5 million to replace our fleet. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working with Matt down at Fleet to get a list of vehicles that are in need of replacement, and we're gonna take that list and then also combine with what's been requested in the budget and come up with a plan for our fleet replacement. So I believe this SPOS will help pretty much get county fleet majority in good condition, newer vehicles, and then from there, what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to implement a replacement plan. So every year in the budget, we know we're gonna replace X amount of vehicles.
Yeah, sounds
Thank-
great.
We'll take
Thank
it.
you, ma'am. Y'all will take that?
We'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, go ahead. Ms. Cow?
Thank you. This really doesn't have, well, it has something to do with your budget, but y'all still doing the school board stuff? Y'all do an assessment for them?
Talking
Y'all
about the
do anything
digest
like-
side of it,
Yeah.
we do have a
Yeah.
consolidation for the school board, yes.
Okay, so basically, y'all do an assessment of the property and then they apply some formula to that. Is that how that works?
Maybe I'm not understanding what you're asking me.
Well,
Try to get-
how does the school tax get figured?
That is
after you
part
do
of the
the
millage
assessment.
rate that comes off of all the properties, right?
Okay.
Part of the millage rate.
There was some amendments in the state law this year. Does that affect any of y'all or nothing?
I'm not sure. You know, there was a new homestead that's been implemented, and I know that the board is actually trying to implement a homestead
I'm a
for the
little
school
confused
side.
sometimes between the tax commissioner and the assessors, but y'all are, I think I understand that, you're really not tied to each other.
No, we're not tied
You're
to each other.
You're
No.
independent
Correct.
from
Yes.
tax commission.
Yes.
Yes. We do the valuations and the ownership
Y'all do the valuations, the tax
They do
commissioner does the billing.
collections.
Doing collections, yes.
We set the millage rate.
There you go.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
Very good.
According to the numbers that they give us.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And we trying to give you some
We
numbers.
trying to give you
We
them
are.
numbers. We look, you know what I was about to say.
Exactly.
I need them numbers.
Listen, that's why we come here. Listen, we are trying to
Yeah.
do what we
Well, I
can,
appreciate it.
because
I
it helps
appreciate it. I
everybody.
was just
That's
wanting to
right.
get
And those
clear
numbers
what
are
was
so
going,
important.
how that worked.
Thank you for saying that.
They are. They're so key and so
Yeah.
important
Yeah,
to even the work that we do.
thank you.
We-
Sometimes we didn't know everybody knew that.
Oh, yeah.
And see, even that mobile assessor, it's gonna cut it and get more. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's not enough of us for what is going on right now.
Yeah.
And then we can't hire, and then we can't keep.
Yeah.
You know, Marty and I were doing interviews even today.
Yep.
And, you know, some canceled, some that they try to call have picked up and went somewhere else
Or they declined the job due to the pay.
due to the pay.
Well, this whole budgeting process for us is predicated on the data that you all provide to us.
Yes.
So
If we
we
wasn't on
are,
camera, I'd come and hug you.
yes. So like we're sitting here deciding what goes where based off of the data and the numbers that you all give to us.
Thank
You understand.
You are
Oh,
absolutely right.
yes, I get it.
Bingo.
That's correct.
I got it a long
Yahtzee.
time ago.
And in fairness,
Yeah.
in a fair way. We're not
Right,
trying
right,
to
that's
hide
correct.
something. You know what, we're
That's correct.
presenting to y'all, you all know that. All of y'all
Right.
know that.
That's
It may be
right.
some questions here or there,
Right.
but at the
That's
end of the day, you all know that. And we
Absolutely.
try to do it and involve you guys as much as possible and inform and try to be there for the public as well.
Well, listen, thank you for all that you're doing. We greatly appreciate it. You know, once this is over, I am gonna start peeping my head in the door asking about those numbers.
We miss you,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
We miss you. Come see us.
We know you've been busy and you've always been able to come by, but any of y'all know that anytime. It's good to see you, Miss Jackie.
But we greatly appreciate y'all.
All right.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank
y'all.
you.
And thank you, Brittany. Got all yours? Let me grab my water cup. Y'all have a good day.
Y'all too. he gets a little nervous, so y'all be bear with him. Yes, solid waste.
This is our last presentation of the day. This is your new solid waste director, Matthew Dolan, and his information starts on page 208 of your book.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. How about yourselves?
Doing good.
So, this is our,
Matt, I don't think you had an opportunity to, this is, it's our clerk, Ms. Jackie. This,
yes, ma'am.
and this is, Commissioner Demond Mason. Yeah.
Welcome, honey.
Yep.
Glad to have you.
Yep.
You know Ron, well, Ronnie's on the
Yeah, he,
board.
yeah,
Yes, I've
Yeah,
met
Ronnie
Ron.
picked-
You know Ronnie.
yeah.
You met Ronnie once, you'll never forget him.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Ronnie picked it.
Ronnie did.
Ronnie picked it.
Oh, you better come shake his hand.
Yeah.
He had a lot of influence.
Welcome.
Yes. Should I get started?
Yes, sir.
So, I literally started 3 months ago, so, this has, been an interesting process, coming in the middle of a, budget process and, new budget year. So, for the FY24 budget, we actually are not asking for any capital or any additional personnel, for disposal or the recycling centers. Obviously, we do have the elephant in the room for Keep Newton Beautiful. I didn't know, I heard you guys discussing that earlier. I feel like maybe that's something that is,
I think Brittany has a plan. I think, and I actually like the plan. So, let Brittany put something in place, and then we'll come back to that.
that sounds good to me.
Okay.
But not really very much changes. We actually had to reduce our operating budget for some debt services. We have some principal for debt coming up for our GFA loans. So that's the major change you'll see. Everything else basically either stayed the same or was reduced so that we could cover the principal payments that are coming due on our 2 GFA loans. So if anybody has any questions,
Just as a reminder, solid waste fund is an enterprise fund, so this is a fund that operates off user fees. There is one slight transfer in from the general fund, and that is to offset the East Side land development lawsuit from several years ago.
By the county.
East Georgia, I
by
said
the
East Side,
county.
didn't I? East Georgia land settlement, yes,
By the county.
by the county,
Thank you.
correct.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners? That's a lot of cuts. Cut down, down. Cut. Matt, let me, a quick question while they looking for, things to ask. Do you know how much the GFA loan is, the payment?
There's 2 of them. Those are 2016 and 2020. I have them on my email I can pull up.
I mean, if you don't know it right now, that's fine.
But what we budgeted for the principal, is what the payments will be for the year.
Brian, will you scroll to the next page?
You'll see we went from, was it?
Actually, one,
It's 1.5 for the year.
go one more.
So you can see right there for principal bonds,
Okay,
and then down we also have interest.
okay.
So the bond is the region's bond, and then the notes payable is the GFA loans.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's how much we paid back thus far?
So that's
that's
the
all.
principal and interest payments for FY24. So that's just the annual payment amount.
That's what not the board. Now, that's what the solid waste authority has to pay for, a GFA loan. That's the payment, yeah.
How much is our contribution to solid waste?
648,000.
Is that coming down?
Yes, it does gradually go down, only by like a couple thousand every year usually.
Have we got enough money to, if a big piece of equipment goes out, we got enough cash to be able to buy something?
We, the budget is balanced currently with, revenue versus, the expenses from the debt and so forth.
They do have a little bit of fund balance though. I think that's what you were asking about.
Yeah.
Cash reserve, would be the cash reserve?
Yeah.
But it's not reflected on this budget. But I can pull a balance sheet and get that number.
That stuff's expensive.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I was gonna say that's because Brittany corrected me last time, it's because it's not an expense, that's why it's not reflected here. See, I'm learning, you're teaching me something.
Now, that's good to know.
It is.
That's good to know.
It is good.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, because it's always a topic of discussion, and you just been here 3 months, I'm sure you've heard, you may not have a whole bunch of information about it, centered around our recycling centers. It is our solid waste authority, they're able to maintain what we have, and are we able to open up any others?
So we are able to maintain what we have. The idea of opening more is something that can be brought forth to the board, and it's something that I'm sure the board would be open to discussing.
And so, of course, we would have to, you all have to have more personnel to basically staff them. And we currently have enough personnel now. Like, how many personnel do we have at each center now?
Our busy centers, we have 2. Our slower centers, we have 1. And then obviously, what the 2 people at one of the busier ones allows is if somebody calls out sick or something, we can pull that person and they go to the fill the slot for the person who maybe had something going on for the day. But normally, if most likely, if we opened up Cook Road, we probably would have to put 2 people there and so forth, and we'd go to temp service and so forth.
And we have, what, 5 open right now?
6.
6.
So to jump in there, there was talk about opening up another one, and the next location would be Cook Road. Cook Road is in District 3.
Okay.
Yeah, over behind Longhorn and all
Oh, okay.
that, over across the railroad track.
Yes.
So that particular station,
Is it
probably,
3 or 4?
I think it's Cook Road.
I think
3 or
it's
4.
3.
It is?
It used to be 3. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about the change in it. It used to be
Okay.
3.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It may be 4.
It may be 4 now, but it used
That's
to
what I
be
was
3.
thinking, it might, I don't know.
But either way, that's the next location that will be opened up.
Okay.
And it would take 2 people to be out there. I don't know if we can afford to do it right now. That's something we had talked about. Because the thing we trying to do, we trying not to come back to the board and ask for more money.
Right,
You know, we trying to
Right.
let it sustain itself.
right.
Yeah.
We're good at that.
Do we, I know we asked this question before, and we were kind of told when it comes to recycling programs, because there's so many people that always ask for, why doesn't Newton County have a recycling program? And I think before I heard that we have to pay for someone to take our recyclable materials, except for glass bottles. They give us a little bit back on that. So is that still the case? Do you ever foresee that changing?
Yeah, so I've worked with Pratt before in my previous position, and it was a couple weeks ago I pulled the reports and was just looking at it, and we pay $80 a ton to tip in at their MRF over here, which is not as bad as $80 a ton isn't bad, but we still have to pay a driver fuel and so forth. I mean, usually a truck costs about $100 an hour to run, so you're looking at maybe a 3-hour trip, depending on traffic, possibly them to get there, dump. So you got $300 in a run, and then you've got to pay $80 a ton. But recycling does have a piece of the pie in solid waste, and I'm a firm believer in recycling. I believe it has its own piece. So, you know, it's something that we can look at in the future and talk to the board about, is increasing our presence in recycling here in Newton County.
I think it'll be great because I get that question quite often. And I know that it wasn't, from what I was told previously, from our previous director, it just wasn't cost effective. So I don't know if it ever will be, and if it is something that we can implement within our community. Because I think from an environment perspective, it'll make a lot of residents feel like Newton County cares about our environment. And we do, but we just also have to look at our expenses at the same time.
Exactly. It's you don't want to put too much into that, and we start losing a lot of money. Right now, it's got a good balance, but we there's always room to grow. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
No other questions?
I appreciate you guys taking the time to and been very, very nice. Thank you.
Good
You're
job, Matt.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
And welcome once again.
Yes, I'm enjoying it. So
Good.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
All right.
All right. He's finding his way. I just say it like that. He's finding his way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's so
yeah.
sweet.
He is.
Where'd you find him at, Ronnie? Did you find him myself?
No.